Good morning to all, especially members of the Hilton Head Island community. Today we're convening the Community Service and Public Safety Committee meeting, which is scheduled today, June 28th at 9 a.m. Our first item of business is to call to order. And Phyllis, have we complied with FOIA?
Yes, Mr. Harkins, we have complied.
Thank you. Would you be so kind as to do the roll call?
Yes, Chairman Harkins. Mrs. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Lennox?
Here.
Mr. Ames?
Here.
Here. And
Thank you.
Do we have any of our other colleagues on at the
Yes,
meeting?
Mr. Brown?
Good morning, Mr. Brown. The next item is the approval of the agenda. I'm sure you've all reviewed the agenda. Is there a motion for approval in a second?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Phyllis, would you call the vote, please?
Yes, Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Lennox?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes. Our next item is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes for May 24th and May 25th. Is there a motion to approve same?
Move to approve both agendas. I beg your pardon, both minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please call.
Yes, Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Lennox?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes. Phyllis, next item is citizens' comments. Do we have any members of the public that wish to be heard?
No, Mr. Harkins, we do not. Public comments concerning today's agenda were to be submitted electronically via the town's open town hall portal. The public comment period closed on Friday, June 25th at 4:30. At the conclusion of the open town hall, there were no citizen comments, and citizens who wished to speak at the meeting had to call in no later than noon on Friday on June 25th. No citizens signed up to speak at the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no unfinished business, leaving the remaining item on the agenda, new business, the Burke's Beach Road parking. What I'd like to do is ask Jeff Bakalu, one of our key town engineers, to provide an overview. I'm then going to turn to our town manager to have him share his opinion, and then I will open it up to members of the committee for their comment. Jeff, would you begin, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Harkins, members of committee and council. I have a brief presentation where I'll go through the history, the issue, the recommendation to today, and what our path forward is. So if you can confirm everyone sees my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
All right, very well. Yes, this item, what we're asking for today, a recommendation to open the existing metered spaces at the end of Burke's Beach Road. There are 13 spaces closest to the beach that currently the meters are bagged and those are roped off. We also recommend that the shoulder parking that had happened in the past along Burke's Beach Road remain prohibited. This item or related items to parking, towing, etc., were touched upon about a half dozen times last year. This culminated at the October 20th meeting when Town Council took action 7-0 vote, recommending that parking continue to be prohibited on Burke's Beach Road and that staff look for a more permanent means of blocking off that street parking. As it lies today, you know, you've seen the conditions out there. The photo at the lower left is the parking spaces closest to the beach. We have traffic barrels and cones and nylon rope. prohibiting parking along the shoulder. We have signs. There are 7 no parking signs. Violators will be towed vehicle information on those signs. I guess the question is, where do we go from here? Why has this not been corrected yet? And what happened last fall was when town council said find a permanent solution, our plan was to make this a capital improvements project and fund it in the FY22 year. Since we are doing improvements at Chaplain Park, we decided to take a more holistic approach, include Burke's Beach within the park improvements plan. There are 3 public roads that border Chaplain Park. You have William Hilton Parkway, Single to Beach Drive, and Burke's Beach Road. All of those are critical to park function. We think pedestrian ways, wayfinding signage, parking, all of those have related function, I guess, to the park. So we want to incorporate these roads into that park project. As part of that project, we will look at a proper turnaround facility at the end of Burke's Beach Road, whether that's a hammerhead T section, the most likely solution there. Pedestrian facilities along Burke's Beach Road, parking, wayfinding, signage, etc. And we'll also be looking at Single Beach Road, as I said. For everyone's information, Burke's Beach Road is a county right-of-way. The right-of-way width is 66 feet, which is a good thing. That's a very wide right-of-way. The pavement, as it lies today, is 28 feet wide. So there are 2 11-foot lanes, and there is a 6-foot paved shoulder. I've been talking with the county public works and county engineering departments, and they would not allow on-street parking without a proper infrastructure improvements, an encroachment permit, etc. So just allowing people to park there on the shoulder, as they may have done in the past, is not an option without infrastructure improvements and an encroachment permit. And I also asked about the future plans of the county regarding that road. The pavement is in poor condition. The county tells me that they do resurfacing projects in 5-year batches. They are just finishing up a batch in 2022. So the next batch of road resurfacing projects will be done from 23 to 28. It is highly likely this road will fall into that batch of resurfacing, although they could not give me a year right now because they have not done the prioritization and scheduling for that work. I'm talking with the county also about future improvements and what we may like to do. And the county said they would be open to dedicating that road to the town if perhaps we would like to take it over for maintenance and do more robust improvements and not have to go through permitting with them. So that is what I have. And stop sharing my screen at this time.
Thank you, Jeff. I know our town manager has the opportunity to walk the site, and he would like to share his view, and I think it's going to be compartmentalized from a timing standpoint. One is the as-is condition, 2 would be an interim solution, and 3, the process, not the product, but the process that will lead to the long-term solution.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I'd just like to thank Councilwoman Becker for taking her time out of her day to walk that site with me during a busy time. I went down there with Jeff, thank you to Jeff as well, and stood there and just simply watched, documented, and thought through some of these issues. You mentioned a few different points. I'll go out of order. I think the first thing we have to look at is you've all addressed this several times late last year, heading into the new year. And I think that there's some immediate fixes we can make down there. And so here's just simply my opinion. Leave the street, or I should say Burke's Beach shoulder, as a no parking area. Allow folks to park at the metered spaces. They're parking there regardless. Actually, I went down there and saw folks that have thrown the barrels out of the way and parked there anyway. The metered spaces seem to be an okay place to park. I would suggest that the 2 spaces closest to the beach remain as no parking. In fact, I think we should pull the meters out, just remove them. That for now is allowing a temporary turnaround. I think if we allowed parking at those meters, the turnaround becomes in somebody else's yard. The long-term fix, as we get under contract on the overall Chaplain Park master plan, to me, to Jennifer, to the team, to Jeff as well, the Chaplain Park master plan includes Burke's Beach Road. So as a streetscape, that would include formal no parking zones, a formal light imprint turnaround. We're not thinking of a cul-de-sac at the end of the street. We're just simply thinking of an easy turnaround, a drop-off point. Of course, park improvements to Chaplain will have a lot to do with the functionality of the beach access. In fact, on a Saturday morning, you could go down there and see the entire parking lot of Chaplain full of cars that are parking there to use the beach. They're not parking there, as we know, to use, the soccer fields and the rec leagues. So I think we have to figure that out as we look at that master plan. There definitely needs to be a signage improvement program, and I think we could tie that into the master plan. And really, at the end of the day, to improve the park, to improve the resident quality of life, and to improve the street and beach access. So I think step one, and my recommendation, and I think I'm hearing the same from Jeff, keep the no parking on the side of the street, allow the parking at the parking spaces, with the exception of the 2 closest to the beach to allow for some turnaround. And then regular enforcement. Definitely regular enforcement at peak times so that we can make sure that folks are using the spaces and respecting the residents, the neighborhood, the beach, the park. And I think that there's some operational improvements as well as some physical improvements that are needed immediately.
Great. And also, you mentioned signage improvement. Do you see an opportunity for signage improvement right now?
There are little fixes right now. Yes,
Okay.
We've removed some signs down there that were directing people to park and use a beach where there was no parking.
Okay.
And so 2 or 3 directional signs have been removed for now until we can think of a big picture. We're very close. We're very close to having a consultant team under contract on Chaplain, and so we realize the urgency here. I think from the time being, we've just got to put some place, close this off of council's agenda for now, and then bring it back to you through the process, as you mentioned, bring it back to you all for input in the master planning of Chaplain.
Good, thank you. Tammy, this is your neighborhood. You know it well. Is this a compromise of thought that you could live with, you could tolerate till we come up with a master plan improvement for the long term?
Well, first, thank you in the same manner to Mark and to Jeff and to everyone who's taken the opportunity to come out to look at the situation over the course of the year plus now. Burke's Beach parking decision to keep it permanent is the absolute right decision. That is a safety hazard that we've now solved and will prevent any further concerns. I think one of the conditions that, with regard to that strip, though, that the residents of the neighborhood and the Marriott has suggested is, right now it looks like a little bit of a crime scene. So as this transforms as a permanent situation, if we can put some other type of rope barrier so that it doesn't look quite the way it does right now, that would be an improvement along there. As you know, coming down Burke's Beach Road to that beach access is not only literally hundreds of day people, but also people from around the island who are staying at locations where they don't have beach access and looking for that access and parking. Many of them are driven to either Coligny or Chaplain Park to use the access here at Berks Beach. I know that the town is actively working to establish new pins at other public beaches. I think that will be very helpful to the numbers of cars that come and try to use the access and the parking at Berks Beach. Just as aside from them, though, we keep in mind that there are 60 plus homes from the time you turn off of 278 onto Berks Beach, not including the visitors to the Marriott Surf Watch, who have to use that entrance to get to their either permanent homes or their vacation destinations. And those numbers, as you imagine, aren't one car per house, but usually 4 or 5 plus cars per home, and traveling that route on a daily basis as they enjoyed their property. Of those 60 plus, there's around 10 that are permanent residents. And for those of us who make multiple trips in and out, the congestion there is pretty hard. So this solution, by all of these descriptions that I'm telling you, is absolutely the right choice. And I thank everyone who's been involved for making that happen. The other place where we become concerned about safety is that turnaround that we just spoke about. I think that taking those 2 meters out will help that. It will certainly help control those cars that try to use Front Street or Seafront Street, used to be the old First Street, from going down there and using that private residence as residential street as a turnaround. So that's a good move as well that I support. Those other bagged meters, I think there are around 8 of them or so. I see them as viable parking spots. My only concern, again, is for safety as people are pulling in, and we just heard about the numbers of people who walk down that beach access and whether or not backing in and backing out there is a safe measure. So I would put a question mark about the safety issue there. In terms of signage, there was some signage that was corrected, but I also want to point out, and I know that Mark and Jeff know this, but I also want to point out that there's an entire parking lot off of Singleton Beach Road at Castnet that is virtually unused. And part of the signage really needs to help encourage people to use the beach access and parking off of Singleton and drive some of that, those visitors that way to spread it out. All of those comments are really driven first and foremost by the safety issues that we have. I have spoken with you guys, and I think that there's some great plans coming for the Chaplain redesign. I think the primary emphasis for those of us who live in Ward 4 and are impacted in this area is that we not only retain what we had, but we regain what we've lost, and we enhance all of the residential neighborhood characteristics of everything on the non-Chaplain Park side. So when you turn down 278, everything to your left ought to resemble a neighborhood atmosphere with manicured sidewalks, etc., that will make the entire area return to what it was previously designed to be, a residential neighborhood. So I think in general, I'm 100% behind where we are right now. The question mark remains whether or not the safety really is there for those 8 or 9 parking spots where they're metered. But I'll turn it over to others. I hope that my fellow council members on this call will support this plan. I think in the future, Jeff mentioned the county thinking that this might be a road that we as a town want to consider taking over. I think it might be, frankly, in our best interest to do so that we solve all the problems that we've just discussed. The Chaplain redesign, our residential neighborhood towards the left, and the safety features that are needed on Berks Beach Road that to accommodate the number of cars that come down to use the beach access and look for parking, and let them know that Castnet is there as well. There you go.
Thank you, Tammy. Tom Lennox, please.
Thank you, Bill. I was there midday on Saturday, and I think Tammy's description is appropriate. It does look like a crime scene. There was a lot of congestion, a lot of confusion, My concerns would be over safety, functionality, and aesthetics, and I think this is a good step in dealing with those three issues. So I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Tom. David, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me speak to three different items. The larger scale beach experience, the neighborhood issue, and then safety concerns. The beach experience is so important to our brand that I think we really have to get a grip on a beach management master plan. And the reason I say that is that we know we have a challenge getting our residents to the beaches already, as more and more second homes or short-term rentals are created. Access to the beach for visitors is going to become that much more important or a challenge. And then I think we just have to be realistic and realize that our beaches are going to be a magnet for off-island residents. And how we manage that is critical at this decision level that we're talking about today. So I think, Town Manager, we really need to accelerate a beach management master plan so that we make a commitment to how we're going to deal with the increasing population of people off island wanting to come to our beaches, how we improve the visitor experience, and also improve access for residents. So that's level one. The second level is the degradation of neighborhoods in areas where there is beach access. If you look at what Folly Beach has done in Charleston or Isle of Palms, you can see what's going to happen here on Hilton Head in any neighborhood that has walking distance access to the beach. And I think we have to recognize that and deal with it. And I think the recommendations today along Burks Beach Road acknowledge that. So I think that's a good move. As far as the situation down at the beach and the metered parkings, I'm not sure about that for safety reasons. I think Councilwoman Becker mentioned backing out, pulling in, dropping things off, and so on. That, to me, does not sound like a viable long-term solution. And so I really wonder whether or not and if we're only talking 8 spaces, to me, that is more complication than benefit. And so I'm really thinking that perhaps it does not make sense to have metered parking down there, but to have a Coligny drop-off kind of a solution where people can drive down there, offload beach equipment, and then the driver drive back to wherever there is managed parking. So those are the 3 things that are important to me: beach management plan, preventing degradation of our neighborhoods because of the popularity of beaches and the relatively few places people can get to the beach, and then the safety concern at that turnaround. I really think that we ought to study whether or not it makes sense to allow those few remaining metered parking places. Thank you, Chairman.
And thank you, Mr. Ames. I'd like to now ask our town manager to comment on the thoughts and wisdom shared by our colleagues.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your input. I know that Jeff and I don't have any issues if we leave those parking spaces with the meters as no parking areas right now. Not whatsoever. In my initial thoughts on it were to simply leave them there as a temporary item, but to remove them most more than likely as we master plan Chaplain Park and provide the proper turnaround. If your collective wishes are to leave the entire street, inclusive of the metered spaces, as no parking, I will figure out a better immediate solution to block the parking spaces. Throwing up barrels and yellow string or yellow tape only to have them thrown out of the way with folks parking there from every which way. So we have to enforce is not a good solution. So I may, if your collective wishes are to not allow any parking in that area, I'll pull the bags off the meters, I'll pull the meters out of the ground, and I may even scrape up the, I have to figure out a better permanent, or at least a better barrier to no parking than the barrels and the rope.
Yes.
If I could just ask this question, maybe to Jeff and to the town manager, then I'll come back to our colleagues. I think having a good drop-off opportunity would appeal to the majority of people trying to access that beach. So my question is this: absent the meters, would we be able to configure a better drop-off turnaround than to continue to have them stay there?
As a short term, are you asking me?
Yeah,
as a short-term temporary fix, absolutely. All right. The long-term fix, once Chaplain's master plan, is probably going to be a much different treatment down there in terms of a better drop-off, a better turnaround, those types of things.
Just as one person on the committee, I feel that the 8 parking spaces, the 8 parking opportunities with the meters, it has a negligible impact on the overall demand. And I think if we could have ease of access for the majority to come to drop off the kids and all the junk and all the beach paraphernalia, and then go to another good place to park, it makes a lot of sense. But those are just my comments. David, you had another comment, please? I believe.
No, you just summarized it. I think to the degree that the town manager can move in the direction of having a appealing temporary solution until we have a permanent one, would be something that I would favor.
Okay. Did another committee member have their hand up? And then I'm going to go to you, Alex.
I just want.
Tammy?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say that I think that question mark solved in this way is absolutely the best decision. And I think signage will help a lot to let people know drop off only, and then they can come back out and think the safety issues will be dramatically improved with doing that. Additional signage for those 8 spots, letting people know that there's parking down by Castnet, which has several dozen spots available to them that are unused, would also be helpful. So all of those things are good. And I neglected to say, though I should, while there were no citizen comments or speakers for today, personally I don't know if others have, but certainly I have heard and gotten many comments from our neighborhood. And they would, I believe, feel this to be an adequate solution to their overall concerns. One of the pieces that I think will be addressed through as we move along, was an idea of that walkway down to Burke's Beach Road being on the left-hand side, part of the residential neighborhood. We now have Seaside being developed, and there are dozens and dozens of people who walk down that road to the beach. So all of these pieces coming together is all good news. And so I thank everyone for their support and working together to get this done.
Thank you. Mr. Alex Brown, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Orlando, I applaud you and staff for attempting to find solutions here, and I think you're definitely going in the right direction with your hiring of a beach manager. I think that's the name of the position. This kind of ties into this conversation, particularly as we look at it long term. As far as timing is concerned with the master plan, the best case scenario, when do we foresee shovels being in the ground for these improvements that we're talking about?
Alex, good question. It's a little off topic on the agenda, but I'll defer to the town manager.
Somewhere within 6 to 12 months, if you think of just the true master planning process itself would take a few months. The permitting, the land disturbance permit would probably be the longest it would take us, and those are typically 3 or 4 months to achieve,
Right.
plus civil engineering drawings, which take a few months at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking 9 to 12 months, the life cycle of a construction project as we begin it. Currently, we got a jump start on it before July 1st. Jennifer Ray's done a great job jump starting the process, but we're looking at this time next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Realistically.
So, the reason I was asking that question, because I think it does play into our decision making here today. At best, we may have 8 weeks left in our season. So I guess I'm a little concerned about doing any type of major improvements to the turnaround at this point right now. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but we've got crowds of people already. I just think we need to think that through a little bit more. I'm definitely agreeing as far as the safety is concerned, but the way that Burke's Beach access is configured in relation to Chaplain Park,
For a second. Mute.
it was never designed that Chaplain Park would be the parking for Burke's Beach access, okay? And I mean, that's proven with the Castnet having X amount of spaces and nobody able to use them for easy access. So I guess I'm in agreement with us having better signage. I'm in agreement with trying to improve the current situation as far as safety is concerned, but I want to go backwards just a little bit. Bear with me. When we were experiencing heavy, almost uncontrollable and unbearable traffic down at Coligny Beach, we put forth a very assertive effort to spread that wealth, so to speak, i.e., new signage on the north end of the island, kind of alerting people that there are public beach accesses besides Coligny. The trolley came into play because of that situation down in Coligny. So I guess where I'm going for a short-term solution is, how do we take better advantage of the parking spaces down at Chaplain Park as people want to access through Burke's Beach. Now, yeah, we can do signage all day long, but I think it needs some special attention, okay? Maybe there's a small shuttle service that we can provide to make sure that people are getting to and fro so that they're not wanting to go to that turnaround, which is not a turnaround at the moment. I think that's the conflict point. So some other solution besides you going out with a backhoe and tearing up the parking spaces and taking out the parking meters, Mr. Orlando, I think needs to be considered because the beach is open. And the last thing we want to do is offer up an attitude that we're not open at Burke's Beach. So those are my comments.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Good comments. If there are there any other comments? I've drafted a motion for your consideration, and I'll read it, and I'll be asking for someone to endorse and second. That this committee is supporting a motion to maintain no parking on Burke's Beach Road, and also including the current parking metered spaces, with the direction to the town manager to establish an appealing and safe, be it temporary, solution to address this situation with the addition of appropriate upgraded signage.
I'll make that motion for you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I would second it.
Okay. Any other comment?
Well,
David, please.
okay, thank you, Chair. You know, I believe there is a expedient temporary solution. I don't know if it's cones or posts sunk in the ground, but I'm looking for something that clearly says there's a circular turnaround there so that we don't have cars going in 100 different directions trying to make their turnaround. So to the degree that the town manager can get back to us and just give us an idea of the direction he's headed, I would appreciate it.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand, please. Opposed, same. Mr. Lennox, we didn't hear from you.
He's on mute. He's on mute.
Oh, Mr. Lennox, we did not hear from you.
In support of the motion.
Oh, thank you. Okay. We have no other new business. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, raise your hands. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Right.